Good afternoon, LinkedIn. Super special episode. Pretty sure this is the first app partner that I've had on the show. We're doing Let's Build, and Let's Build with the guys from Kixie. How you guys doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Chris, I'm excited to be on your show.
I'm super excited to have you. And specifically, like for those that know me, this is probably the last tool I would ever look to install in my portal. I'm not an Outbound guy, and I remember hearing your episode with George on Hub Heroes,
Mhm.
and it's like you did a good job of saying
Well, thank you.
like literally like Chris, this is not so bad. We're not just texting and we're not just like pounding people. So
Yeah.
what I'd love to do today is do a little bit of an unboxing, right?
Mhm.
And just talk through like why people would what's value, should people expect to get and why should they definitely have it, in their
Totally.
portal. Does that sound good?
It sounds great. It sounds great.
Awesome. And while I pull this up, why don't you if you guys could just give a quick intro, that would be awesome.
Aldo?
Sure. My name's Aldo. I've been a sales engineer at Kixie for about 4 years, and last year I moved over to the product side, so I kind of manage our integrations, especially with HubSpot. But I really love helping customers sort of build out their processes and making suggestions, and so that's kind of my background at Kixie.
Amazing. My name is David. I am the head of sales for Kixie and a big evangelist of doing any kind of long form content like this. So I'm excited to be on the podcast.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited. Like I said, I know there's a space to get more app, partners, the people really extending the platform, adding a ton of value. And so excited to go through it with you today. So I've got it up here.
Cool.
Kind of cheated and went right to the page. But what are people, we see a little breadcrumb up here, like calling sales. What are people usually looking for to find their way to this page?
Yeah, and the breadcrumbs are tricky, right? Because for us, we're not a point solution. Like there are many integration partners out there that are like, we do this one thing, like we're, essentially a more advanced Calendly or something like that. We do quite a few things. They're all in the telephony space, but we do calling, we do texting, and then we do advanced calling and texting up over and beyond what you would typically find if you're just looking for a VoIP service. So we can automate calls, automate text based off of events inside of HubSpot. So instead of calling people for no reason or because it's just prescripted inside of your sequence, you're calling someone because they opened an email or engaged with a chatbot or, you've noticed that there's an event that happened that made you really prone to like, this is a great time to call this person or text this person. But we also do multi-line dialing. We can call multiple numbers at a single time, and only the person who picks up the phone is the one we connect to. A whole bunch of advanced fun stuff. So we're nested under, I think, the telephony, the dialing portion of the marketplace on HubSpot. But if you searched SMS, we would also pop up. And typically when we work with a lot of reps at HubSpot, and we get recommendations for both. So people will send someone who wants an SMS campaign and they want to integrate with HubSpot, they'll send them our way. People want to take the sales engagement, like the sales hub, to the next level and not just have sequences that are prescriptive, but sequences that are dynamic. They loop us in. And then also people who just want to call prospects, either prospects or existing customers, they loop us in as well. And hopefully, when you search for anything like that inside the HubSpot Marketplace, you'll pull up Kixie.
Yeah, that's it's interesting as HubSpot goes, full platform and way more functionalities
Yep.
than a lot of this infrastructure was built. So it definitely resonates because you see this on the partner side too, even the CMS, marketplace. It's like, okay, maybe the categories that used to make sense,
Yeah.
like right now, like, because we know SMS is a big thing, and that's where like they product develop so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And SMS is certainly, in the navigation.
Yep.
uh I would imagine either like it would be here if it was an option to put here,
Yes.
but also when we talk about like the app certification process, like, okay, maybe that's an additional feature and did it go through this process and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I love calling this stuff out because it's hard for users, right? When they're trying to, they get so excited about, yes, let's extend the platform, let's do all the
Yep.
things.
Yep.
And then without these conversations, it's very hard to, you know, figure out which way
It,
which way to
it
go,
is. And there's
right?
so many in there. If you start trying to search dialing or calling inside the HubSpot Marketplace, you're going to come up with so many integrations, many of whom have call
Whew,
or dial in the name. I mean, there's so
only
many. So
only
trying to choose between them,
170.
yeah, there's a ton, right? So I have a ton of empathy for someone trying to figure out by scrolling through this gigantic list, who the heck do we talk to? So one of the reasons I was excited to do this is because one of the things that we really pride ourselves on as Kixie is being able to get your hands on the product really quickly and easily, unbox the thing, and see if it's something that you need or not. We're a real kind of lead people to the sale as opposed to push people to the sale. Like an unknown stat of Kixie is only about 5% of all the revenue to Kixie is outbound. Almost all of our revenue at Kixie is from referrals. It's from people who are already interested in a platform like ours reaching out to us. It's from our channel partners. It's from HubSpot reps. Like that's how we do most of our business. And so in order to lead people to us, people got to navigate through all this, which is tough. So one of my hopes for this is to kind of break down what we do and why we're different, not only from the other integration partners over there, but also from the calling and texting that HubSpot has natively now. Like they've got quite a few features themselves. And so really explaining what the use case is for why you would reach out to someone like Kixie, jump on a free trial, and test us out.
Yeah, and I get like I won't stick on this too long, I promise. But like,
Oh yeah,
this is like, you know, you see even SMS still 173 results. But what's interesting is like, okay, yeah, I guess Facebook Messenger, like that's
yeah,
not
right.
probably what I'm trying to accomplish,
That's pretty loosely bundled into that
right?
subgroup, isn't it? Yeah.
And then the conversation about certified app versus not, like WhatsApp Business does not have like the little badge on
You're
there,
right.
like yeah. So definitely like finding ways to do a little bit of due diligence, and I'll say the badge does help because you
Totally.
know, like, okay, this in general, and maybe this is when we take a step back from
Hmm.
the Facebooks and the WhatsApps, and like the when you know an app has been developed for use on HubSpot,
Yep.
like there's a lot of red flags that just go away, or challenges that might
Totally.
show up, right?
Yep.
We talked about that on some other episodes about properties coming in, and now we have duplicate properties and just
Yep.
all this stuff, right? So working with somebody who knows HubSpot well goes a long way.
Totally.
So can I
And in
pick
fact,
this?
yeah, absolutely. In fact, and most of our features, when we build something, like even when we built our initial telephony integration with HubSpot, there were two-way paths we could have gone. We could have created a separate Kixie object, like a Kixie call or something, like many of our competitors did when they built their telephony integration with HubSpot. Or we could have built it in such a way that it just logs as a native HubSpot call. And we choose the latter every time. If there's a way to make us log or act as if we were natively HubSpot and it's simpatico and it shows up in all of the native reports and you don't have to build anything custom for Kixie, we will always choose that. And we're huge HubSpot partners. We go to every inbound conference. Almost half our revenue comes from HubSpot. We are real we use HubSpot internally. We're big believers in it. So we definitely give priority to how HubSpot would like things to log and act and stuff, as opposed to trying to dictate it ourselves.
It's super important, and often you know, it's just misunderstood. Like it's just because an app has a bunch of, you know, has a big name on it,
Mm-hmm.
or a bunch of reviews, like, you know, it's often a lot harder than that.
Yep,
There's lots of ways to still go wrong.
totally.
So I just went to the screen.
Yeah,
Honestly, I just saved one thing, but that's okay. When we're talking amounts of users, like I saw quite the range here. Like, is there a
yes.
sweet spot for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we do really well with SMB and mid-market, and we've kind of grown as HubSpot's grown. So if you had asked me 2 years ago, like I would have said, okay, between 1 and 50 users, you know what I mean, is great for us. These days, actually, we deal with a lot of larger companies. As HubSpot's gone upstream, so have we. And it so happens that we are, I think, objectively probably the most complex, the most sophisticated of the calling and texting integration partners with HubSpot. And so a lot of larger organizations, when they're choosing between other complicated platforms like a Five9 or something like that, like a kind of big enterprise solution, also will look at us as well if they're on HubSpot. So these days, I mean, that's why we have so many options that go up to hundreds of reps, because we actually do encounter quite a few large deals with HubSpot now, which is great. I'm really excited to see them go upstream.
That's awesome. Yeah, it is. It's definitely an exciting time, but good that we're not, forgetting about the, the all the users and small businesses that got us here, right?
Totally. It's interesting actually. A lot of our competitors, I've noticed, have started to put a limit, like you must have 3 users to sign up with the platform. You must have 5 users, that sort of thing. I've never embraced that. Like because, and maybe this is because our DNA is one of pulling people to us as opposed to pushing people to us. A lot of times, those individuals who get on Kixie and use Kixie for their own small business or for themselves, they later join a company, or they start a company, or their company grows, and those very customers know to then come back to us because they used us in the past. And guess what? The other our competitors have lost out on that potential business. Like, they also tend to be great evangelists for us, and we honestly just like helping the HubSpot community. Like, and that HubSpot community consists of people that are also less than 5 seats. It just does. So to
Right.
not serve that part of the community just seems wrong to me, I guess. So we've been pretty adamant about that. If you are an individual user and you wanted to sign up for Kixie, you can do so, and you'll actually talk to a real live person in Santa Monica, California, where we're headquartered. Like, that we're not going to outsource you to some lesser support or lesser salesperson because you happen to only be a single seat. Like, you'll deal with somebody who's HubSpot certified, because all of our employees are here, and they will walk you through the process live on calls just like this.
Awesome. Yeah, that's so great to hear.
Yeah,
Because by the way, if we're actually helping people grow better, they're starting at 1 or 2, and maybe they get to 50, like
totally.
like, especially I'm sure with tools that help them scale, like
Yep.
this one. I'll say you definitely have my vote based on showing me this flowchart diagram right out of the gate. We always want to. I'm probably in the minority that clicks on this one first and just like,
Yeah.
let's get the power call. Like, let's get in
Yeah.
there. Do you guys actually have like any data that, like, are people usually clicking, this one first or this one,
Typically, power
anything like
call
that?
first.
Yeah.
Usually customers want to try out calling their number and then connect to the CRM right away. So that's kind of where the power call comes in. And then once you actually want to start building out your power list and your call queues and what have you in Kixie, that's when they move on to the business. So that's kind of the typical path that we see.
Okay. Cool. Uh, well, I'm gonna click over here, and I promise these guys that I will hand it over at some point once we reach uh, a point of no return. And I think this is that point where there's some work to be done to make sure this stuff works right.
Yep.
So I did want to, while I'm over here, um, like we're connecting to the HubSpot calling features. Is that correct?
Uh, yes, so if we wanted to connect Kixie to HubSpot, we'd actually want to install PowerCall, which is where you can kind of OAuth in and build that connection. And then from there, you can also start making calls, and I can walk you through some of the more common use cases between Kixie and HubSpot. I'm actually really excited to show our integration with HubSpot workflows in particular. That's where a lot of our customers see some huge value, and where we're able to tackle some of these use cases. It's funny because we are typically sort of considered like primarily an outbound tool, but it's actually the inbound use cases where we really shine the most. And one thing that Kixie does really well for its customers is helps sales teams manage the transition between warm and cold states with their leads. So HubSpot does a great job of identifying when a lead shows initial interest and maybe they cool off, they deprioritize, they start working on other things, but they come back, they pick up an old email, they click on an old pricing link that they saw. HubSpot does a great job of capturing those hand-raising moments, and then we help customers engage when the leads are ready to sort of start talking again. So a lot of the kind of workflows that we have built out that I was excited to walk you through kind of show how we manage that journey, and how we have processes in place to handle both warm and cold leads depending on where they are in their buying journey.
Sounds like a good plan to me. Let's get into it.
Cool.
Everybody might have noticed, like, because I'm in a dev portal, and you get so many days of it opened at like enterprise level, and the HubSpot calling. I clicked on the button, it's got the lock, and heaven forbid I have to pay for starter. to be able to use it. But that's where it's like, if that gets you access to additional tooling like this, I mean, in my opinion, Starter's a no-brainer for businesses
Sure.
that don't have anything at all. But yeah, I think this is the time where you show us the cool stuff.
Absolutely. And you don't really need to be on Starter to use Kixie. Like you don't
Yeah.
actually need to unlock that calling component. But the workflows, I think there's a lot of value there, and it's definitely worth it to anyone who's considering using HubSpot. I think that's where you see a lot of the value. And HubSpot does such an amazing job, especially the more tools you start using within that ecosystem, the more you're able to start capturing and doing more stuff with, which is what I'm going to show you right now. Right now, we're looking at a list of power lists, but I want to put it in some context within a workflow first. And we'll come back here and I'll show you how I actually manage all of this. So this is one of our favorite workflows at Kixie. The lead has submitted a form. They're interested. They want to talk. And one thing that we do really well at Kixie is facilitating the engagement between sales teams and their hand raisers. They're people who are interested in calling. So it's pretty standard to send out an email. Hey, welcome to the platform. Thanks for filling out a form. But we also like to add in a phone call and a text message. So Kixie has this notion of high priority lists, people that you want to talk to right now. And these are our hand raisers that I spoke to, our warm leads, our customers who are showing interest right now and they want to talk. And we can also send a text message. I love the text messaging component. I'm going to show you the dialer in a second. But what's really cool about text messages is that we can either send those messages from the assigned contact owner. So if you are assigning sales reps to your leads the minute they come through the door, we can send it from their direct Kixie phone number. Or if you wanted to, let's say you have a team of appointment setters and you just want the first person who's available to be able to engage with this person. You can send a team SMS with Kixie. So Team SMS is a shared inbox for teams. It's kind of like a ticketing system almost, where a message could go out through automation, and then anyone who responds, the first available member of the team can receive that message. We have a lot of options.
Almost like a HubSpot chat, but over text.
Correct.
So a lot of times, like we run into that on the sales team. Someone texts in and they want help, and then we're communicating back and forth. But then the sales rep has to get on a demo, and we don't want that. We don't have to like kick them to a different member of the sales team. We don't want to say, "Hey, be back in 45 minutes." We don't want to say, "Email me." Like all those are bad experiences. We want another team member to be able to jump in, pick up that conversation seamlessly, and then the prospect doesn't even have to know that there's this internal jockeying of who's going to handling their communication. Like it works great for that.
Awesome. Yeah, I think like, could you take a second to clarify? Because like when I think SMS and I see it over in the navigation, I usually get pushed to Pay for Marketing Hub Enterprise. How is this? Seems like it's like a sales functionality versus a marketing like one to
Mm-hmm.
many. Like what? Take me through that difference.
I think that facilitating that handoff between marketing to sales is a really important part of the customer journey, and one where sometimes if the companies don't have their process really buttoned down, that baton can sort of get fumbled in the handoff. Now, any hub that you're using that has access to workflows, all of these functions are available. As long as you're using the Kixie platform, these action steps will be added when you install the Kixie app. So any plan that you're on that has access to HubSpot workflows, this will be there.
Okay, so any professional level,
Yep.
but also it sounds like the use cases we're targeting is not SMS marketing as most people think about it. Is that correct?
Correct. It's not broadcast SMS. It's more like transactional SMS. We also offer an
Okay.
interface to have one-to-one conversations, but we are more interested in reaching out to inbound warm leads than we are in sort of prospecting cold leads.
Yeah.
So we're not really an SMS blast solution, but when people are
Yeah.
showing interest or you want to create an SMS drip campaign in a workflow because you have some leads that make sense to reach out to, that's when we are really a good tool to use.
Awesome. Yeah,
I think
it's a good thing. When I first I tried to get excited when SMS became available, but I know all the texts that I get that I don't super enjoy. And I was like, oh man, how is this going to be like ruined?
one
Totally.
thing I love about our texting is that it always connects back to a live person. I mean, as long as someone's monitoring their inbox. So you're not really just
That's
getting
huge.
like notifications or like, hey, we're having a sale. It's more like, hey, I'm here to reach out to you. Either the team is here or an individual that's working with you is here, and you can text them back. And that's sort of the type of messaging that we like to facilitate at Kixie.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So let's jump into the power list a little bit. I'm really excited about this part too. One of my first projects when I became a product manager was to spearhead prioritize power lists. I ran into this a lot when I was a sales engineer at Kixie. We would create speed to lead phone calls for customers, but because they also had people they were calling back, sometimes a new lead would come into the inbox or to the CRM, and it would take an hour or so to call because there's other leads that are lined up to be called first, and we wanted to handle the speed to lead use case really well. So we created this notion of prioritized power lists. You can see over here that I have several power lists that I'm subscribed to. Think of each one of these as like a different bucket or a different campaign. So I have speed to lead power list, continuous follow up power list, warm lead follow up, email opened, and different priority levels depending on how hot that lead is. Now, which power list these leads fall into is usually dictated by HubSpot. So if it's a form submission, I want to send it to my highest priority power list, my new lead power list. And now I'll call that lead next. Maybe I'm finishing up a phone call for my colder outreach, but as soon as this guy becomes available and an agent is ready to call, I'll be calling them through the power call experience over here.
And for people who
What's
haven't used a power list before, like I think typically they think of a power list as like, okay, it's a big list of people you want to call, and you're maybe an outbound agent and you want to call, no answer, call, no answer, call, someone finally answers, call, no answer, call, no answer. But what's interesting is Aldo really, I guess, took advantage of and recognized that there was actually a huge need for this internally too, because beyond just making it easy, like there is a use case for outbound, obviously, right, for powerless, because it forces a rep to make the call, so that call hesitation kind of goes away, or at least is reduced. It's scary to call someone out of the blue and get rejected because you're bothering them at a random time during the day, right? Rightfully so. But that doesn't probably discourage nearly enough sales reps from doing it, but they do that anyway. But what's interesting about the inbound use case is it actually also just organizes who the heck you have to call, because what you'll notice is like a lot of the leads that come into your system, whether they fill out gated content, whether they visit your website, whether they engage with a chatbot, you're collecting all their info and you're reaching out to them, and most of them don't pick up the phone the first time. And so even if you're staffed appropriately for the number of leads you have coming in, 80%, 70% of them from the first day are going to flow into the second day. And you go, okay, I'm going to try and get a hold of people from the first day on the second day, but I'm also going to get a hold of people coming in on day two at the time they're coming in. And sooner or later, it just keeps the backlog, just keeps growing and growing. You don't know who to call. You don't know when to call. And so this whole thing is about how Aldo's found a way and helped Kixie to deliver that to our customers, to organize all of that and keep track of who to call when, and hopefully not piss people off in the process. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but yeah.
Oh, no, absolutely. And
I think
what we
that
continue.
that not pissing people off part would be a great goal for many companies to think about.
Yeah, totally.
We really try to lean into this philosophy of connecting sales reps with their leads at the right time, for both to improve the quality of life of the buyers and the actual sales teams who are reaching out to make sure they're having higher quality conversations. We actually find that using like cues from HubSpot to trigger engagement at the right time leads to better conversations anyway, and it creates a better experience for the buyer too. So it's kind of a win-win for everyone.
That's relevant. Like it's all about right time, right message, right person. And uh, I say that in jest, like the good goal of not pissing people off, but most of the time, like the tools are here, right? Like if you just make the decision that you want to do business differently, and the tools are there to help you do that.
Totally.
That's one thing we love about HubSpot too, is because we can tell that it's in HubSpot's DNA, the same type of philosophy of making sure you're actually connecting with the right people, and not harassing people too much, and just kind of creating a better experience for everyone. So that is why we lean so heavily into our HubSpot integration. In my opinion, it's one of the best we have, especially when you consider the workflow component and all the actions that we have available there. Um, what I wanted to show is kind of how we manage this transition from like higher, warmer leads to colder. If we don't connect with them right away, and maybe they have other things going on, they lose interest for a while, we know that you want to kind of give them a few more call attempts, try to reach out while they're still relatively warm and still in that mindset of wanting to buy. So you can actually dictate how often you call them here. And typically, the warmer they are, and uh, the higher the priority of the power list is, the more you'll want to call them at a higher frequency. But if you don't reach them in that first call, so you'll see I have like my max daily attempts here, my max total attempts to one each. That means I make one call when it's triggered, and then I move them to a warmer lead follow-up cadence. So now I'm going to call them a little less often because they're not looking quite as closely. So I go over here and I'm in my warm lead component, and you can see how the priority has gone from highest to high. So they're still pretty fresh, they're recent. I want to keep reaching out at maybe a higher cadence than normal because they're still relatively warm. But if we still don't connect, we can't have a conversation or get a firm yes or no, we'll move them onto a continuous follow-up cadence. It's cold. That's a lower priority, and that's kind of what we see over here. So our leads are sort of waterfalling through a higher cadence outreach to a lower cadence outreach, depending on how recently they've shown interest and basically how warm or cold we consider them. And that's kind of how we manage that dynamic. And as you can see here, you can map information from HubSpot into these fields. We give you a lot of real estate, and that's what you're seeing over here in this workflow. I keep picking all the wrong tabs. But yeah, you can kind of map all your data, whatever's relevant to you, including more detailed notes that would be plugged in over here. Now, what happens if a lead becomes cold, but they re-engage with your marketing material? How do we put them back up to a higher priority? So this is one of my favorite email or HubSpot triggers, link and email clicked, or maybe email opened. But if you have like a pricing link in one of your emails and maybe 2 months later, they're like, you know what, I really should go back and revisit that project. Let me go click on that link. Let's trigger a phone call and an email right now. This is an important step, removing from a power list. So before we add them back into a high priority follow-up, we have a way to make sure they're not in any other power lists, because the worst thing that can happen is if you double call someone because they're a part of 2 different lists at the same time. So we have a lot of tools in place to make sure you manage that carefully and that you're not calling someone from 2 different teams for 2 different initiatives. And I'll show you some more use cases for the remove from all power lists use case shortly, especially like close loss deal or do not engage, things like that. But we've removed them from all the power lists. Oh, go ahead, David.
And can I just say what's interesting about this is I think so many tools are so focused on helping the customer do what they want that they don't at all think about preventing the customer from doing what they don't want, right? Like so often it's like, how do I call more people, get more dials, get more, and that's great. But what about all these things you don't want? We'll just tell the team not to bother people too much. It's like, oh yeah, that's going to work great. You've got sales reps who are under the gun for quota and commission. There is no penalty for them overcalling or overbugging somebody. There's only an upside to them getting a hold of them and closing the deal. I'm sure that's going to work great. They're going to exercise a lot of self-restraint when they're calling hundreds of leads every day to make sure that they're not accidentally calling 2 people from the same company if one person's already moved forward or whatever. Like, so I'm proud to work at a company where we really put a lot of thought into that, and we try and prevent people from not doing what they don't want to.
I was just thinking about the same thing about how when you look back at these actions, you really do realize how much thought was actually put into all of this. And I remember actually being there during the different stages of development as we were encountering these things with our customers. And, you know, it really just shows like the empathy that Kixie, I think, has too for not only their customers, but their customers' customers, and making sure that everyone has that good experience. I remember when all these things were developed.
And I'm pretty transparent on this show, and I can think of like, you know, times where HubSpot could benefit from a tool like this. And you know, it's kind of recognize the challenge as like growth is the number one priority, and we got to scale and like, but I try to be empathetic. Like, you know, these people are graded based on how many calls they're making and all these quotas. Yep. And while I disagree with some of that, it's like understanding that it's not always like they didn't decide. It's not like they saw you were on this list and just got called and then decided to call you again anyways.
Right.
It's like clearly things like this, you know, could be very helpful in helping, you know, either like could be 2 different people, you know, and you know, on Monday it saves this person from being the bad guy, and on Wednesday it saves this other person from being the bad.
Totally.
So I love this.
Especially because we really do believe that most companies are actually trying to do the right thing, and a lot of times when these mishaps happen, it's actually just an operational accident. So not only giving people the tools, but making them as easy to use and as accessible as possible is a big part of what we're passionate about over here, and that's why we just love showing this stuff off and kind of like helping people figure this stuff out. I certainly enjoy it.
Yeah.
So this is a separate campaign. It's essentially a very similar powerless setup, but if I go back over here, you can see that I have like a different like verbiage. Like this is for emails that are opened. Where's that one? I can't read right now. Here it is, email open. And that's important because as a rep, I might want some context. So being able to see the name of the power list that I'm calling from and the details, as well as like being subscribed to these power lists over here, is going to help me out with my call. And you can also plug in notes, like they just opened the pricing link email. I could go right over here. And that way it empowers the rep to have a more contextualized conversation and be ready to like talk about what the person is thinking about right now. And so those are some ways that we help facilitate that. So what
And
would
what's
this
so
kind
cool
of
about that is so often, you've got these sequences built out in whether it's in HubSpot or whether it's in some other sales engagement platform that go like this, like call on day 1, email day 2, call on day 4, email day 5, call on day 10, whatever, that kind of thing. And when you call that person on day 10 at 2 p.m. in the afternoon on a Thursday, there's no particular reason you're calling them at that time, right? It just happened to come up in your sequence. The odds that that is a great time for them to accept the call from an unknown person for an unspecified amount of time about a topic that they don't know is coming at them is unlikely, right? It's very likely that you are annoying them at an unwanted time. It's not convenient for them. So, but you have all this data coming in. If you're on an awesome CRM like HubSpot, you know all of this stuff that Aldo's talking about. You know if they've visited your website, opened an email, engaged with a chatbot, fill out gated content. You have all this data coming in. And it's so frustrating because so many times what I see salespeople do with that data is nothing. They call someone on day 10 at 2 p.m. in the afternoon on the Thursday because that's what came up in their sequence, right? But there's such a better way to do that by doing exactly this, by looking at the event that's happening. They're reading an email about the content you want to talk to them about. Now is a fabulous time because their mind is already thinking about it and you're not wasting any more time than they were already dedicating to whatever the thing is that you're talking to them about, right? So anyway, I get excited geeking about this stuff too.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's like the power. Think about this in terms of the whole platform. Like a really, like literally, like you've got the tools. So if you want to get like handcrafted experiences where it's you doing the majority of the work of the strat, like somebody's got to set up the strategy, and these are the fields we're mapping. These are the triggers that we want to see. But then now our teams are in a better place to actually be human beings without having to worry about all of this, other stuff that we got like 5 windows open and like, because we're gonna miss that
Mm-hmm.
email or call that just happened, right?
100%.
So are we? So as a rep, where are we doing? We usually have like this Kixie, like the power
This
open
is
with a HubSpot window, or how does
this
that
is
that
the
work?
usual kind of like setup that most reps have. They have the power call going, and they have their HubSpot tab right here. What I just showed actually is the way that we actually connect you back to the contact page if you need to do work over there. So we will always include the CRM link with the contact name from HubSpot right here. Click it, and you go right into that contact record. All your calls get logged here. You can fill out any other information you need to. But a lot of it can be done from the Kixie dialer. If all you want to do is log some call notes to your call activity and keep moving, you can do it here. But if you actually have a meaningful conversation and you want to fill some more stuff out on their page, it's very easy to get to the contact record from there and be able to continue your work and then just go right back to Kixie.
Okay, so it's similar to the Outlook versus HubSpot or
Correct.
Gmail
Mm-hmm.
versus HubSpot
Yep.
One other
situation.
thing I want to call out is that your HubSpot call outcomes and your call types live here too. So when you integrate Kixie to HubSpot,
Oh,
we get your HubSpot call outcomes. That's how we're able to actually log your HubSpot call outcomes here to the call activity. This is what David was speaking to earlier about logging things natively. Logging HubSpot phone calls and text messages and using the HubSpot call outcomes, now you can unlock the rest of your platform. HubSpot has great reports. They have a really nice reporting library too with call template or call report templates already built. They have conversation intelligence and call transcriptions, all of which work with Kixie. So it's like you're using the HubSpot native dialer in many ways, except for you have more powerful features built into it. I think it was a smart decision that the company made to choose to use the APIs and actually trigger things in the CRM. So you can actually use your CRM for what it's for and have a source of truth.
so
I just feel very passionate about that.
interesting question then. Uh, is that not normal for these tools?
It's
For
not.
some, no,
Yeah.
they'll build their own app that's inside of the tool, and
Mm-hmm.
that's fine too. There's advantages to doing that as well, but we found that our customers have a lot of success having everything live natively. Some other tools will log their own versions of the call activity in there, and then you might have to build a new set of reports that map around that type of activity type. So what's really refreshing for a lot of companies that are already using HubSpot is that if they already have things built out, they don't have to rebuild anything. They just keep the reports the way it is using all the HubSpot native stuff. That's our SMS too. We log as HubSpot SMS. So it's very easy to build all of your call and SMS reports that way.
And what's nice about
Yeah.
that is if you start off with HubSpot and you're using the native dialing and texting, which has been getting better every year, then you can decide at some point, like, hey, actually, we want all this additional functionality. We want these bumpers on the side that prevent our sales reps from going off the mark. You know what I mean, and falling into the gutter. Like, we want all these extra features of Kixie, but we don't want to have to like have this sudden cutoff where all of our reporting prior to this date looks like this, and all the reporting
Yeah.
post that date now looks completely different because everything's logging differently, right? Like, we want it to be seamless, and so that's what we did.
Man, it does sound like you guys are familiar with the HubSpot ecosystem because like
Yeah.
that, and I'll tell anybody out there watching this, like if you're not familiar with apps and integrations and like huge red flag, and I'm fine with being the one to say, although like it's not okay. Like if you just show me data on the sidebar in a card and then I can't access it anywhere else in the portal. Like I can't use any of the other
Yep.
HubSpot tools. Like, no, I don't want to go into your tool and do all the stuff. Like just
Yep.
accept the way that I want to use HubSpot. And it's not hard. And now I'm getting so much more value.
Totally.
And you guys just decided to put the data in a different place. Like, let's
Mm.
use the HubSpot tools. And
I
I'm
happen to
gonna
be
remember that, right?
really passionate about that myself. Most of my time at Kixie has been spent either as an account manager or as a sales engineer, but I was always building things in customers' platforms. And when two tools don't talk to each other very well, or when the data is not easily accessible from one to the other, it's frustrating. And when we build a new feature that makes it more accessible and more connected, and you're able to do more with it, it's like so satisfying. And
Yeah.
that's like that passion has always been a big part of the Kixie DNA and has driven us to come up with some of these more innovative features that I think we're showing right now. And it's pretty cool, I gotta say.
Yeah. It just like talk about scale. Like,
Mhm.
because when you don't do that, it's just like, uh, I'm constantly having to engage you as the app developer and like, oh, I want to see this. Oh, can I make this
Yeah.
happen now? Uh, right next to all the tools that are naturally doing it. And even if I love you, there's
Right.
just a natural discomfort with not being
Totally.
able to use the data that's sitting right here in
Yeah.
all these other, and that's the magic of HubSpot, right? Like the unified code base and everything working together. So very likely if I see a call over here, even if you guys put it in, it turns out like everywhere I can use calls, like it's going to work the same way. So that's really well done.
Thank you.
We're happy with it.
Uh, yeah. So this has been really cool. But yeah, I'm here. Like whatever else you want to show, like happy to check out some more stuff.
Let's do it
Just
all.
call outcomes, as we pointed out, are logging, right? So now you're actually updating your deal stages, your contacts with those call outcomes. I got a demo booked, I move it to appointment stage, to appointment scheduled. I've got not interested, I move it to close lost. What's important though is back to that remove from all power lists action that we showed earlier, is that if someone's not ready to buy or they've already bought, don't keep calling them. It's time to stop the phone calls unless they actually need a call. So deal stage is close one, appointment scheduled, close lost, whatever makes sense for your process. Take them out of all power lists and make sure you don't accidentally call someone again. We just try to make it as easy as possible for you to connect with your leads when they're ready to talk and leave them alone when they're ready to stop talking. So just kind of wanted
The,
to walk
the
through the
other
whole
cool thing
thing.
about and the great thing about this, like as a sales manager, I know one of the things sales reps dislike the least, and I did too when I was an individual contributor, like logging stuff into the CRM. Like you spend half your day making your calls and doing the things you need to as a sales rep, and the other half, like going back into HubSpot, moving a deal from stage to stage, marking it lost, putting in the qualification reasons, putting like all that stuff that is important for me as a manager, and we love to see from a report standpoint, but for them doesn't add any value, and they frequently don't do it or do it not optimally or whatever, forget to do it, go back and then try and just check a bunch of boxes and move it somehow to get it, all these required fields, just click something in them to get it to move from stage to stage. It's to be able to have that automated based off of the outcomes is so much smoother, because then me as a manager, I'm happy, I get the data I want. Them as a sales rep, they don't spend a bunch of time doing it and get frustrated at HubSpot, and everybody wins.
Yeah, and this is where that strategy of, I guess, not only pissing people outside of the business off, but not pissing people inside of the business
Yeah.
off, right? Because and that's where it's much more than just a thing. It's much more than just a dialer,
Yeah,
right? Like,
it is.
and this is why you're highlighting all these things that if somebody's first conversation with me includes the word dialer, I'm like, all
Hmm.
right, maybe I'm not a good fit for you. Like,
Totally.
because that should not be the goal. And what you guys are showing, and what I want to ask is, I like to be the post sales, the order management guy, and I
Hmm.
see a lot of opportunity to say, okay, closed one. For some, it's like the beginning of the
Yep.
relationship, and finding these ways, especially once this is where I can see, like, okay, any baggage about calling or texting, like, there's a space for that.
Hmm.
But when we're in a relationship and I've given you money and there's expectations, getting out in front of communicating. And I can tell you personally, like United Airlines has gotten so good at this, I think, even overdoing it a little bit, where
Yeah,
they tell me I've arrived like 6 times after I get
they
off the
do.
plane.
Yeah, they do.
But that communication level, like, I think it's okay to over index there, because
Hmm.
what happens when you don't is I'm calling you, or I'm
Yes.
emailing you, or I'm uncomfortable. One of those
Yep.
three things, right? So getting out in front of this, and now post sales, especially stuff like the customer success, like, if we can help the team just stay on top of communicating things, man, I see a lot of potential there. Do you guys have like customer success use cases at all?
Totally. Yeah, and we use some of those same features. So, for instance, on the customer success side, if you're logging a particular outcome, it might not be to move the deal from stage to stage or market lost for a closed loss reason for the sales specific. It might be creating a ticket or completing a ticket that's already been existing in Service Hub, right? And that can also flow from like someone comes into chat and you see that they're connected to a deal and they're connected to a deal. That agent is available inside Kixie directly. You know they're available. We can trigger a call or a text from that rep to the prospect that's just entered chat to try and make the communication more seamless, right? And you don't have, so that way the bot's not interfering with it or whatever might be going on in chat. Like, and then get them on a call, because calls are always better than chats. And we set automatic reminders before a scheduled, Zoom call or HubSpot call or whatever. Like, there's lots of cool support use cases too that we can dive into. We do everything. We've covered mostly like we've geeked out a lot on the workflows, but all of the enterprise level functionality you might expect from a phone service, from a dialer, we have as well. So whether it's call queues, so people are put on hold, they know their average wait time. They can opt to drop out of hold and be automatically called back by the next available agent, which I love doing. I hate waiting on hold. You can have simultaneous ring groups, so that if you call in and the rep you want to talk to isn't available, it'll ring someone else. You can also, we have call routing based off of HubSpot properties, which is something unique to us. I know I'm mindful of time, but like, someone calls in, rather than having to push an IVR, push one for support, push two if you're an existing customer, push one if you're an existing customer in North America. Like, no more of that. Like, you call in, it sees, hey, actually this phone number is attached to this contact who is supported by this rep. I just ring that rep and try and get a hold of them. And if that rep's available, boom, you're on the call with your support agent, but all you had to do was call the mainline number. Like, how cool is that? And those are small little things. It's funny you mentioned that it's more than a dialer. We have that problem a lot because we're slotted under dialer, and if you ask me one word, what are you? It's like, okay, we're a telephony platform, but we do a lot of niche stuff like that. It's just kind of like neat over and above stuff that differentiates us, but people aren't typically searching for it. No one's searching for like CRM-based call routing HubSpot. Like, no one's searching for that, right? So like, the only way that comes up is if you did jump on a trial, or we have the opportunity to jump on a presentation just like this and actually get the information out to people, which is why I love doing it.
Yeah, no, this is great. Like, because honestly, like, like I said, like, it would be the last tool I would think to, include in my customer experience strategy.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sold. Like, this is the kind of stuff that really helps teams out. And like, again, we're not trying to replace people. We're
Yep.
trying to enable them to, cover the challenges that we talked about. Be in a lot of places where we're asking our teams to do way too much right now,
Yep.
in a lot of cases. So like, we might not have ever sent the text. Like, texting was never a part of the plan, but now that we did, now the next interaction is
Hmm.
more informed, and like all these different ways to kind of say like, oh, we know you, like we know who you
Yep.
are, like you don't have to tell us any other information. Maybe we're getting a little more information in these engages, like, and the fact that you guys are integrated into the base tool set, for me as a partner or a coach, it's like that's a lot of things are possible because of that.
Yeah.
Like all the functionality of HubSpot, it gets powered, by this additional data, and it just all works together. So this has been amazing.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
What do you guys? I imagine you guys can we geek out about inbound for a minute?
Dude, I am so excited about Inbound. I would love to geek out about Inbound. Dude, I am thrilled. We go every year. It's like it is our biggest conference of the year, and I won't miss it for the world. I will move any other plans, any other things I'm doing, always the same way. Like we love it. I love Inbound every year.
Yeah, last year was my first one. It
Oh,
was,
really?
yeah, because I was a user on the inside, industrial and manufacturing. Good luck getting approved budget to go to a marketing conference. Um, but since like as soon as I got out and we started this business, I went last year and it was amazing.
Yep.
Definitely felt like I was in the right spot. But what are you guys excited about, this year? There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of
Ooh.
data, like data cleanliness, like what's going on with Clearbit, like,
Yep.
and that's where like once there's that second layer of AI helping out with all of
Yeah.
these connections, like man, like watch out.
I'm really excited to kind of go as a product manager for the first time and kind of connect on that level because usually I'm going there trying to explain use cases to customers, but I'm actually looking forward to seeing the announcements and actually what they are going to be doing with AI, what their roadmap looks like, what a big company like HubSpot would do with it, how we can incorporate some of that into Kixie. It'll be fun to go with a new lens, I think, and like just a new perspective and like a new priority. So that's actually what I'm most excited about for myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm excited too. Last year, Aldo and I were one of some of the speakers on big stage, and that was really fun. But definitely, it meant more pressure. Like there were so many people there. It was like, okay, we got to get this right. So I mean, probably the first half of the conference until we spoke was like, we got to get this right. We got to get this right. So I'm excited to go there and not be so worried about like making sure the presentation goes well and be able to just connect with people about everything going on. To your talk about Clearbit and the use of AI and HubSpot, I think what's so cool about it is at its core, I think a lot of people misinterpret AI and technological advancement, period. I think they think, oh, with more technology, I can do less for the same result. And what I actually think, I think, no. Let's do the same amount or more, but get an even better result than we were getting before. So rather than just, I can slack off more and let the AI bot handle this chat, it's like, no, I can make sure that the AI chat bot, while I'm getting off my call to help this person, is at least treading water well, rather than asking mindless questions to kill time until I'm free, right? Like that's
Yeah.
ultimately what we want. Is we don't want technology to just enable us to do less and be lazier for the same level of experience. We want to make the experience better. And I think that's one of the things that I'm excited about, the way HubSpot is intentionally using AI and intentionally using stuff like Clearbit, as opposed to like just blobbing it out and be like, okay, here, you guys can be essentially lazier because of this good technology. Like, you go have at it. Like, okay, how do we do this to make it a good experience, to make the experience better for the customer? And that's, I think, key. And I always like talking to new vendors and new integration partners and stuff. Like it was your first time last year. It's gonna be the first time for a lot of people this year. And I always love talking to them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And last year I definitely like went a little hard on the sessions.
Yeah,
I like to learn all the things, but
yes,
this year I'm going to try and scale it back a little bit, make sure I'm talking to people, meeting to people.
totally.
There's just so much value all over the place there. It can be overwhelming, but it's a great investment, and
Yep.
I'm excited, just like you guys are, and I look forward to meeting you there in person. It sounds like.
Absolutely. And we're bringing a big team, and we love interacting with it. Anyone watching this, you come up to the Kixie booth. We're throwing Kixie after parties. We're doing a bunch of events. There's something really fun and exciting we're doing out in front of the convention center. You guys will be privy to it once it happens. But like, we bring a big team, like I would say an unnecessarily large team, to man a booth. But the reason for that is we want to be able to have real conversations with people rather than coming to the booth and us saying like, check out our website. Here's a 20% off coupon, that kind of stuff. It's like, no, like let's talk about what your business does. Let's get excited about how we can help. And we'll talk to you about other vendors too that we've known. We collaborate. Like I said, most of our revenue comes from channel and from inbound, like inbound people coming in interested in us. Those channel relationships are with all these other vendors. And so we have a great sense of what they do and how we integrate. So if you're interested in about learning about other stuff apart from technology, you can also stop by us and we'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah. No, I was a big advocate. Like when I was on the inside of companies, like either you go to the event or you don't.
Yeah.
If you're going, you're bringing people, you're making the
Yep.
most out of the event because it's about
Totally.
relationships and contact. And no, I love it. It's a great way to think about it. Sounds like it's working out for you guys as well.
Dude, I'm
So
excited. We'll get a lobster roll in Boston.
there we go. That sounds like a great plan. Uh, yeah, and if you hopefully this has been valuable for
Yeah.
people out there, and you guys as well. But when you're thinking about, you know, again, from the post sale side, and you got pains like, uh, and just to give you guys heads up, this is how I usually close the show.
Yeah.
But like your teams are just buried in calls and emails and things that they're not used to having to answer as much as they are. Like there's places like these tools that can help with that just consistent communication that when you get out in front of it, um, just goes so far in helping the team kind of unlock that stress and make sure the communication's happening and allow them to spend time on the human stuff that they want to be
100%.
spending time on, right? There's so much value in that part of the organization where if you can take some of this stuff off their plate, it's not to replace them, it's to enable them and empower them to really create these experiences. So
100%.
as you the business leader or you know the service sales marketing leader, you're looking at this stuff, you're looking at your process, you know, where could we be doing more communication? Please find some opportunities and let's grow. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so
Let's
much,
do it.
guys.
If you have anyone that has any questions, HubSpot at Kixie is an alias we have. You can email HubSpot at Kixie, and Aldo or I will check those messages, and we can email you right back and answer any questions you have. Because I love how you've conveyed this message, Chris, and I'm happy to be a part of this very podcast.
Well, I appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for the show and tell, Aldo. It was great having you.